It is time for the top 10 hardest bosses, in my opinion, in Elden Ring. Elden Ring is actually the first Souls game that I've ever played. Got around to finishing it last week after about 2 months of playing it. I previously played Black Myth Wukong, got the Platinum Trophy, actually made a top 10 video over the summer for that game. Had a lot of fun with it. Very difficult game, but it inspired me to move on to Elden Ring. So I'm actually interested to hear, if there's some Souls vets watching this video, if you agree, disagree on your opinions on how I rank the bosses, comment below. I do reply to all comments on my channel, but I enjoyed the game a lot. I mean, just the RPG aspects of the game, all the different items you can craft, weapons, builds. I mean, it's a deep game. There's some things I didn't even know existed till I finished the game. Just for some context, about level 150 when I did finish, over 100 hours of playtime, so definitely took my time to enjoy the entire game. And if you enjoy the video, of course, subscribe to the channel. But without further ado, here we go with the top 10 hardest bosses in Elden Ring. Coming in at number 10, and starting off our countdown here, is the Tree Sentinel. Hear me out. I wasn't going to put the Tree Sentinel on this list because you think about it, it's really not one of the top 10 hardest bosses in the game. But it is the first boss that you see in Limgrave when you spawn into the open world. And at least for me, I drifted towards the Tree Sentinel and got a quick reality check. Obviously not leveled up, and I'm sure everyone else who played the game at this point, not leveled up. I wasn't aware of the power of the Tree Sentinel, or more so the lack of power that I had, and I got smoked by this thing. And I'm willing to bet if you put the Tree Sentinel up against some of the other big bosses in this game, from a KD ratio, or you look at it through that lens, I bet you it would be very high up there, because for me, I ran up to this thing like 10, 20 times and just kept getting smoked. I didn't even realize you could run by bosses in this game at this point. So I did end up going back to the Tree Sentinel after I leveled up, discovered some other areas of the map. I did defeat it, and boy, it felt good. That was, of course, until later in the game you get to the capital outskirts and I'm on the stairs and I see that I gotta face two of them. But all in all, I think this is a difficult boss fight just because it's right at the beginning of the game. Moving along, coming in at number 9 is going to be the last early game boss that you'll see in this top 10. It's Margit the Fell Omen. And now that we're past the Tree Sentinel, this in my opinion is the first true skill check in Elden Ring. The reason for that is that this is, of course, a mandatory boss fight, unlike where the Tree Sentinel you can just run past him and come back. But what I ended up doing, because I was stuck here for a couple of days, I went down south to the Weeping Peninsula, discovered that whole region, leveled up a bit, and then came back to fight Margit the Fell Omen. As you can see though, with my playthrough here, I only had the Stormblade Ash of War, still of course learning what Ashes of War were. I think the Lone Wolves were my only Ash to summon, so I wasn't working with much even when I did defeat Margit. The difficult thing for me during this fight was the introduction to delayed attacks in Elden Ring. That really teaches you how to dodge, because just spamming circle against this boss doesn't really work. You have to time up his attacks, figure out when he's going to strike, and decide when the perfect time to roll is. For those reasons, that's why I decided to put Margit in the top 10 here at the 9 spot. Up next on our list, coming in at the 8 spot, is going to be Mohg, the Lord of Blood. In my opinion, one of the cooler names out of all the bosses in Elden Ring. He is the last shardbearer that you face in the game, therefore his health bar is pretty significant. He has a variety of ranged attacks. One of them, my personal favorite, is what I like to call the Blood Faucet. Along with the Blood Faucet, all of these do cause blood loss. That's kind of his gimmick, I guess, when you're considered the Lord of Blood. Other than that, I really don't have a ton to say about Mohg. I did beat him in my first try when I got to his boss arena, but I still figured he was deserving of the 8 spot here in the top 10. At number 7, it's going to be the Fire Giant, where I actually seemed to mess up my fight. I didn't clip a lot of it. This is actually the cutscene for the second phase of the boss fight, and in the top 10 here, this is actually the first 2-phase boss fight that we have. If you look at him, I mean, physically he is humongous. A lot of the times during the fight, you're pretty much swinging at his feet. The way you lock on, I mean, you can't really see above his knees. he has, believe it or not, a lot of high damage attacks. I was actually stuck on the fire giant for a couple of hours, tried a couple different things like utilizing Torrent the horse, and I couldn't really get far without getting knocked off by the fire giant. A lot of people seem to enjoy this fight, as I guess he really is the only giant boss that you face throughout the entire game. Coming in at number 6 is going to be the Godskin duo. When I defeated the Godskin noble back at the Volcano Manor, I can't explain how relieved I was that I did not have to face him, at least I thought, again. Because, of course, here he is, making up half of the Godskin duo. I think it's Apostle, that's the other one. And I was 100% sure that if I made a top 10 hardest bosses video, that the Godskin noble was going to be in that list. Well, that wasn't until I have to face him and his friend once again. The run back to this boss fight, if you die, you have to go run back to it from the site of grace, is probably the most irritating to me in this entire game, as the front door actually gets sealed from the site of grace, and you have to run back to one of the side entrances past 3 huge knights, and very rarely did I even start this boss fight without taking damage from the minor characters leading up to the arena. The Godskin duo has a shared health bar between the 2 characters, which I thought was pretty interesting. Really the only thing that, in my opinion, made this boss fight achievable for me. My strategy was to kind of deal with the Godskin Apostle before the noble would spawn back in. As typically you defeat one of them, maybe like 10 or 15 seconds go by until they get reincarnated, until their shared health bar depletes completely. I really still have no idea how to dodge the noble's rolling attack, which you see when he jumps up into the sky. I was trying to use pillars, so he even rolled directly over the pillar one time. So definitely a frustrating fight for me, and I think is very well warranted to take the 6th spot here. Moving into the top half of the countdown, number 5 is going to go to the Godfrey Horolox boss fight. This is actually the second to last boss fight that you have as you make your way up the Erd tree towards the end of the game. As you can see here, I ended up using the Dragon's Breath incantation. Using the Mimic here gives me a couple opportunities to do so, as I was struggling a little bit without it. So, of course, referencing the Reddit scrolls, seeing what weaknesses these bosses have, and that's something that worked for me for this boss fight. Both bosses, Phase 1 and Phase 2, both have pretty aggressive ground attacks where they'll stomp the ground and you have to clear the area. So really trying to find windows when they aren't doing that is probably the key to success here. Specifically with Horolox, very aggressive, very fast, almost like a superhero. One of the attacks that he has, like I said, a superhero style attack, he'll just grab you and rip you apart, basically one-shot you. So being wary of that is definitely a big benefit when you're fighting. For me, these kind of 2-person boss fights are about managing flasks across both opponents. I actually went to reallocate my flasks just because I was using the incantation. I think I ended up using a couple more of my magic flasks. Just trying to find the right balance. This boss fight did give me quite a difficult time. Up next, coming in at number 4, is going to be Commander Niall. For me, without a doubt, Commander Niall was one of the more frustrating bosses in the entire game. I know I mentioned in the Godskin duo fight, it was a crazy run back to the arena. In this one, you have to walk past a tree sentinel, and I traversed the mist. Sometimes the tree sentinel would sneak up behind me, bonk me on the head, starting off the fight. So that was always fun. And then Commander Niall also summons 2 night spirits at the start of the fight. So there's a couple of different boxes that you actually have to check off before actually getting squared up with Commander Niall. He is weak to bleed damage. Once I found this out, I took my throwing knives. You can only hold, I think, 30 of them, and you hit him like 4 or 5 times, and his health bar will take a big hit. So that was my strategy for the most part, where he has small windows where you can attack him without getting punished too much. So I would use my knives, figure out his attack pattern. You hit him maybe once or twice, roll out of the way, and just wait for the next opportunity. As you can see, he is a big fan of using frost and giving you frostbite and inflicting you with that. So that's a big part of the reason why you want to stay away from him for the most part. Number 3 on the list here is going to be Malenia, the Blade of Miquella. And I understand this might be a controversial pick. I understand that a lot of people believe that Miquella is one of the hardest bosses in the game, maybe even the entire Souls series. I can promise you I am not trolling here. I mean, as you've seen so far in the top 10, right, I love to use my spirit summons. This is my first time ever playing a Souls game, and I'm very confident that the next 2 boss fights in this countdown gave me a tougher time than Malenia. And that's not to say that she's not very difficult. Some of the moves, the iconic waterfowl dance that she has, I think my jaw dropped the first time I saw her pull that one out on me. Almost impossible to avoid. Obviously, a pretty crazy second phase. She'll jump into the sky, turn into the goddess of rot. So there's a lot to digest here in this boss fight, and it is pretty cool. One of the strategies, Blasphemous Blade, obviously utilizing that, but one of the things I mentioned at the beginning of the game where there's so much in this game that you have in your arsenal that I had not known, I began to utilize freeze pots. In phase 2, I found that took almost 15 to 20% of her damage right after she completed her initial rot attack in phase 2, so that's definitely something that helped me get through the second phase. Of course, she steals your health every time she hits you, she gains health, so being aggressive in this fight, in my opinion, is almost mandatory. Malenia probably took me 30 to 40 minutes, and that's how she landed at the 3 spot here in this countdown. Coming in at number 2 is going to be the Radagon and Elden Beast boss fight. This is the final boss fight in the game. In my opinion, a really cool way to end the game, where you're fighting in the Erd Tree. Couldn't think of a better boss arena to end the game. This is another 2-phase, 2-character boss fight. First up with Radagon, he is weak to fire damage, so the fact that I had leveled up my Blasphemous Blade all the way was definitely a big help. But each phase of this entire boss fight, in my opinion, is just as hard as the other one, where when it comes to utilizing and managing your flasks, that's what makes it difficult, because you don't want to just burn everything on this first boss fight because you still have the Elden Beast waiting for you once you get through Radagon. For the Elden Beast, it's a long boss fight. I mean, he's massive, he likes to stay away from you, so the strategy that I actually utilized was using a ranged weapon. I went and bought the Lion Great Bow, where I was able to rain great arrows on him from quite a distance away. The main menu music plays once the Elden Beast comes up, which I thought was a beautiful touch. As the fight, I would almost describe it as peaceful, except for the fact that I was fighting for my life and struggling a lot against the Elden Beast. So definitely a cool way to end the game, but man, these guys are definitely tough. And last but not least, coming in at number 1 as the hardest boss in Elden Ring, in my opinion, is Maliketh the Black Blade. In my opinion, the most aggressive boss in Elden Ring. He also happens to be the coolest boss in Elden Ring. And when I started this fight, I was quite literally hopeless from the start. It took me at least 2 days to complete, multiple sessions, being patient, learning when to take a break. And you can call that a skill issue, whatever you want. I don't really care. He is the only boss in the game where I had to reassign all of my levels to get a build where I thought I would have a bigger advantage. He's also the only boss in the game where I had to go acquire a special item for the fight. I'm talking about the Blasphemous Claw that you can find in the Farum Azula area. What this does is one of his special attacks when he jumps in the air that glows yellow. If you parry at the right time, it stuns him for a couple of seconds, and you can definitely get a couple free hits on him. And I definitely would not have been able to complete the fight if I didn't have that item. This is another 2-phase boss fight where he starts off as the Beast Clergyman. The first phase isn't too hard at all, but it really is that second phase when he turns into Maliketh, revealing his true identity, where I struggled a lot. Everything I found online says stay aggressive, he's a glass canyon. None of that meant anything to me. I was getting smoked by this guy. So definitely felt fantastic to defeat him once and for all. And that is going to do it for this video. Again, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, of course, always consider subscribing to the channel. And like I said, leave a comment. I do reply to everybody.